Prime Time. Now from Washington, Sam Donaldson.
Good evening. Diane is on assignment. We begin tonight with a story of suspected crime and troubled conscience. The alleged wrongdoing took place in a state prison in Georgia, but it was not the prisoners who did it. They appear to have been the victims. Witnesses tell of an unprovoked, bloody assault on the prisoners, led by the very man in charge of the entire Georgia prison system. For months, some say, a secret was kept. And now it's unraveling, and as you're about to see, a trial of conscience has begun among many of the guards and officials who watched, even participated in this shocking story. Here is what happened then, and is happening now.
We're going to fundamentally change how we run prisons in this state. The message is you do not want to come to a Georgia prison. We're running it. Make no mistake about it.
On July 10th, 1996, Georgia State Corrections Commissioner Wayne Garner demonstrated that, yes, indeed, he was running it. As the tactical squads marched in, Garner came in with them, dressed in the full regalia of a battlefield general. And what happened next?
I heard guys slapped, I heard punches, I heard guys calling for help.
Blood splattered, blood went all over the wall.
It was just blood from one end to the other.
I feared for my life that day.
The place was Hays State Prison, a maximum security facility holding some of Georgia's most dangerous men. When the nearly 150 tactical officers from all over the state marched in, it was billed as a routine shakedown inspection. But there was nothing routine about it.
To me, it was amazing. They came through just like the military would.
Guard Deborah Kilgore was on duty at the time.
How were they dressed?
In black, all black. A lot of them had I call them pith helmets, the hard helmets you would see in war movies.
A leader was chanting, and he was saying, what do those lightning bolts stand for? And, you know, all of the officers were saying, kick ass, kick ass.
Inmate Lawrence Epps says he and other inmates became uneasy.
Had you heard that particular chant before at Hays?
Never before. I'd never seen them marching like that either.
These flying squad shakedowns had been going on for 6 months, the officers searching for weapons, drugs, and other contraband. Part of an aggressive new policy promoted to make the prison safer, the brainchild of Wayne Garner, the owner of a funeral home who had no hands-on experience in law enforcement when he was appointed commissioner. He explained the reasons for his new policy to the State Board of Corrections.
I inherited this system on the heels of 3 riots. They did not search the cells. They were weak-kneed and not willing to go in there and do a shakedown or, if you will, an intensive inspection.
They hollered for us to get ready for inspection.
But what happened at Hays State Prison, a dozen inmates who were there told us, was no ordinary shakedown. Fearing retaliation from guards, some inmates declined to go on camera. But some did, among them Lawrence Epps, whose sentence is for armed robbery, and Sean Watley, a convicted murderer.
My door swung open. 5 officers came in dressed in black, told me to lie on the floor.
As soon as they walked in, I put my hands on the locker so they could see that I'm not resisting.
When I didn't lie down quick enough, I was hit in the head with a retractable baton.
The first officer in the door, he took a punch at me. He swung at me.
I was hit in the head here, hit across the eye, busted my eye.
So I was in the back of the cell with them pummeling me, just pummeling me for nothing whatsoever.
On the way down to the floor, I was kicked in the face, broke my nose.
All I could do was cover up, ball up, and roll on the ground.
When they were beating on you, what were you thinking?
That I had to do what I had to do to survive.
Now, Mr. Epps, you say that you didn't do anything.
Nothing.
There have been no incidents in the prison?
There had been no incidents. The prison was calm. They came in for one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to intimidate and to beat prisoners up.
But it isn't only inmates whose claims may be suspect. Primetime has talked to 24 guards and employees at Hays who say they too witnessed abuse that day.
Several people asked, is there anyone you want to get? Is there anyone you want to pay back?
Dee Tucker was a guard at Hays. What did you take that to mean?
I took that to mean if an inmate had given me any problems at any time, to simply give him the officer, the inmate's name, and they would go and get him and beat them down.
There was an incident, I understand, in which there was a retarded inmate.
I was escorting him. He was confused, he was frightened, and he was asking, what is going on? And I told him, do not speak to anybody, do not look at anybody, don't say a word. And some officers came through and grabbed him and slammed him to the ground. They broke his glasses. He was hollering, crying. He was terrified. He was handcuffed also from the back.
It must have been a horrible scene.
It all was, but especially that one inmate, because he was completely harmless.
Another guard, Sidney Clark, says she also witnessed unprovoked brutality.
I seen one inmate slammed into a brick wall face first while he was cuffed.
And this from prison counselor William Jenkins.
And most of them was bleeding ferociously.
The extent and number of injuries that day are in dispute. The Corrections Department says the commissioner's personal doctor reviewed most of the inmates' medical records and found no evidence of excessive trauma. The department does concede that in Jody Smith's case, 23 stitches were needed to close a cut over his eye. Through it all, Commissioner Garner maintains that nothing out of the ordinary happened.
All this business about a bloodbath and people being beaten is just from Mars. I mean, I was there.
That's what Garner told WSB, ABC's Atlanta affiliate, just 2 months ago.
You know, it just didn't happen.
But if you doubt the inmates and guards, meet Lieutenant Ray McWhorter.
We didn't look for contraband. We came in there and just messed up all the rooms, strode all the property around, and roughed up inmates.
Lieutenant McWhorter commanded one of the tactical force squads that took part in the Hayes shakedown. That's him marching in with his men that fateful morning. I've been told that that day inmates' property was thrown on the floor, their food was dumped on the floor, they had their shampoo squirted on the mess, that their rooms were trashed.
Yes, sir.
Well, who did that?
Tactical squad members.
Yours?
Yes, sir.
Well, why, if you had never done that in the past, would you do it that day?
That's still a question that I'm trying to figure out in my mind.
According to Lieutenant McWhorter, standard procedure went out the window, and all hell broke loose when the commissioner's deputy, A.G. Thomas, decided to take things in hand personally.
I see Mr. Thomas go in a cell. He placed his hands on the inmate to pull the inmate out of the cell and throw him to the floor.
Y'all had their inmate refuse to come out of the cell?
No, sir. All inmates were passive and compliant.
Mr. Thomas, you're telling me just grabbed the inmate and threw him to the floor?
Yes, sir. I mean, if he was doing it and not saying anything about it, then, and you know, he's one of the top men, that made it okay to use force on inmates.
Something you wouldn't ordinarily have done?
Absolutely not.
And McWhorter corroborates something else both inmates and guards told us. Commissioner Garner witnessed the violence personally. Maybe the commissioner didn't see any of this.
No, sir. The commissioner saw it. He was standing there right in the middle of the dormitory where the brutal incident was going on.
Did he make any effort to stop it, Commissioner Garner?
No, sir.
Guard Marvin Adams says he saw one incident at which Garner was present.
Mr. Gardner was standing when an officer slapped an inmate. He was standing there. And I couldn't believe that happened. The officer wasn't reprimanded or anything.
He didn't try to stop it?
No.
So what was the signal being sent from the field general to his troops? I've been told by witnesses that there seemed to be a feeling among the tactical officers that, boy, this was payback time.
Yes, sir. That would definitely describe the feeling that I had. It's kind of joyous mood. A free hand to come in there and rough up a few inmates, yeah.
How do you feel about that today?
I've regretted July 10th, 1996 ever since then.
When we heard from inmates that the department videotaped the shakedown, we asked for a copy of the tape. This is what they gave us. It shows the tactical squads entering and leaving the prison. There's a brief scene of cuffed prisoners lying in the prison yard.
To me, it's meaningless because it's not documenting what went on that day.
We showed the tape to Lieutenant McWhorter.
There's no footage of inside the dormitories, and that's where everything occurred.
There's no proof of any of these allegations. They're just simply allegations. People don't like us run a tough prison system.
Department spokesman Mike Light insists the videotape he gave us is complete and that no video was shot inside Hayes that day. Yet on this official tape of a shakedown 3 months later at another state prison, there was plenty of footage inside the cell blocks. And when Garner is shown here, he appears almost benevolent toward the inmates. But listen to what Garner says about inmates. Last year, he told state lawmakers 30 to 35% of the inmate population ain't fit to kill, and I'm going to be there to accommodate them. And while Garner's political mentor, Georgia Governor Zell Miller, may not go that far, he certainly agrees with Garner's overall view.
Well, I happen to think that Commissioner Garner is doing a very good job. Prison is supposed to be a place where you're punished. It's not a Holiday Inn. It's a place for punishment.
I can't be God for an inmate.
Lieutenant McWhorter, however, says guards are taught a distinction.
We are there not to punish the prisoners. Their punishment was coming to prison.
We repeatedly asked Commissioner Garner for an interview. He declined, he says, on advice of his lawyers. But in a written statement, he said, I can truthfully state under oath that no abuse of any inmate or any excessive use of force was observed by me. And had I witnessed any such excessive use of force, I would have taken appropriate and immediate action to see that it was stopped. It's hard to believe that the commissioner would do what he swears he didn't do. But then, what to make of all these other witnesses?
All these people lying? Are all of them lying? I find that hard to believe.
Well, there is one more witness to be heard from, Richard Chamlee, and he is a deputy warden at Hayes Prison. And in his first public statement, he tells Prime Time that Garner not only was present when prisoners were being roughed up, he participated.
I didn't see him hit anybody or strike them in that respect. I did see him grab a young man by the shirt and pull him down from the top bunk and pushed him away into the arms of a correctional officer and said, get his goddamn ass out of here.
Commissioner Garner does not regard himself as a bad person.
Wayne Garner is a good and decent person. I echo my daughter's comments the other day. She said, Daddy, you too good for that job. But I will tell you, I will not shrink from it. I believe in what I'm doing. And I get up every morning ready to do battle because I believe that I'm right.
The inmates involved in events that day at Hayes are suing Commissioner Garner and his department in federal court. But beyond that, the FBI has opened a criminal investigation into whether the prisoners' civil rights were violated. On the other hand, the State Board of Corrections, composed of prominent Georgia community leaders, just last month reaffirmed its support for Commissioner Wayne Garner.